Her Excellency Deputy Prime Minister Namibia, Honorable Ministers of Finance here present, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. First, allow me to thank the Office of the Special Advisor on Africa, OSSA, and the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, for organizing this very special event, leveraging pension funds for financing infrastructure development in Africa. I am indeed honored and delighted to have been afforded the opportunity to contribute in my own small way to the subject matter under discussion. Under the NEPAD program, infrastructure development has been identified as one of Africa development financing priorities. I dare say this topic is very, very relevant, especially with fragile ODA coming to Africa. And therefore, it is very important that as Africa, we should be looking into local resources to mobilize them for development. But the funding deficit of infrastructure in Africa continues to be of grave concern. For sub-Saharan Africa alone, this deficit is estimated at 50 billion a year. The African Development Bank estimates that the growing pool of pension funds is sufficient to finance more than 50% of this deficit. Pension funds are therefore a resource that we urgently need to put a good and effective use for the benefit of Africa's development, particularly in the area of infrastructure. I might add that there has been a phenomenal growth in pension assets in many of African states. While we see a rise in the pension funds, there is some reluctance on the part of fund managers to invest in infrastructure as they see it as risky investment. In Botswana, for example, over the past decade, pension funds have assumed an increasingly important role in the capital markets. The public service employees portion accounts close to 70% of the retirement fund sector by asset base. There is also increased interest in many parts of Africa to attract local and foreign pension money into domestic infrastructure investments. In addition, there is an increased desire on the part of the regulators and fund managers in many parts of Africa to diversify and exploit offshore investment opportunities in stocks and infrastructure projects in other countries on the continent. This is on account of the recognition by these regulators and fund managers that investing all their assets at home could turn out to be risky. Mr. Moderator, it is important to note that until recently, there was a general reluctance throughout Africa to use pension funds for infrastructure development because this was considered risky. There has fortunately been a rethink over the issue, and there is now an increased effort in the part of African continent to invest the pension funds in infrastructure development. There is an increasing realization, even in my own country, Botswana, that pension funds play a critical role in mobilizing domestic savings, and that due to their long-term investment horizon, they are a viable option for partnering with government in financing infrastructure projects, some of which have the potential to significantly transform Africa's development trajectory. Allow me to conclude by observing that with sustained economic growth and as the middle class across Africa grows, pension funds will increasingly become a viable source of infrastructure development financing. We should therefore make every effort to come up with strategies for leveraging this vital resource in our infrastructure development efforts. I thank you for your kind attention.